Welcome to Mission Revive, a podcast dedicated to hope and healing through God's transforming love, where your hosts, anchored in truth and armed with faith, are changing the world and reviving hearts with Jesus, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome to this episode of the Mission Revive podcast. I'm Bob Newberry, and I'm a board member of Revive, Hope, and Healing Ministries, a collection of Catholic apostolates impelled by the Holy Spirit. My partner for today's podcast is Ann Costa, founder and executive director of Revive, Hope, and Healing Ministries. Welcome and good morning, Ann.
Well, thanks, Bob. It's good to be here again.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
We've had some really good podcasts, and we're going to continue today because I always feel like when we can have a priest on, we have hit the mother load, really, because it's so hard for them to take the time. I mean, they are so busy, and it's always a blessing when they can be with us. So today we have Father Christopher Ballard, who was born in Syracuse, New York, and he's 39 years old. He was ordained a priest on June 5th, 2010. Wow, does time fly? My goodness. He has been an associate pastor at St. James in Johnson City, New York, and Immaculate Conception in Fayetteville, New York. He served as also pastor of Our Lady of Hope in Syracuse, but he is currently your pastor, I believe, Bob, right? The pastor of the Spirit of Hope community, Catholic community, which is the home base. Its home base is in Oneida. That's a group of, I don't know how many churches, Bob. Six parishes. God bless you, Father Chris. But his favorite part of his ministry is preaching and teaching. He enjoys the opportunity to dialogue and defend the faith in his spare time. What?
He does that well, by the way.
I would imagine. Yeah. Now he's talking about his spare time, which I don't know he has much. He does enjoy traveling. He's going to talk about that today. Yeah. Hanging out at the lake and spending time with his cats. Aptly named Francis and Clare. Come on in, Father Chris. Let's see you. Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Yes. Great to have you, Father. You know, I'll tell you the seed for this invitation of this podcast occurred months ago when you had just returned from Africa, and you were talking about your trip there, and an observation that you made was that we really have much to learn from the people you met in your travels there, in terms of faith and so forth, and maybe I hope we can get to that right along. But maybe first things first, what took you to Africa?
It was really a wonderful opportunity for celebrating a first mass. So Father John Leo Odur, who was ordained for our diocese, he was assigned as a seminarian at Our Lady of Hope in Syracuse with me. And we always talked about when he got ordained for our diocese and went back to celebrate this first mass with his family, that he would want me to join him. And I said, I'll do it. I'll join you when that happens. COVID delayed that celebration by a couple of years. Okay. But finally, we were able to go last summer, and it was a great opportunity.
Tell us about your time spent there. How'd you spend your time? What'd you do? How long were you there?
Yeah, we were there for about 10 days. There was 4 of us. So it was myself, another priest, Father Michael Galuppi, and then a parishioner from Our Lady of Hope, and then a parishioner who was a Catholic school teacher in Binghamton that he'd gotten to know as well over the years. So we would have liked to have brought a bigger delegation because there were a lot of people that would have loved to have been with his family, and because they've kind of become his family in this country since he's now living here. Yeah. So we landed in Nairobi, and that's about 8 hours away from his hometown. So we spent one night in Nairobi just to kind of recover from the flight, which is a very long flight. And he arranged for us to get a ride from Nairobi to his hometown, which is very remote. It should have taken 8 hours, but it actually took us 10. Lack of signage, rough roads and everything. There's no, there are some highways in Kenya, but this was, we were off-roading it a lot, I think. And
Rough.
so 10 hours to his hometown, and we were welcomed so warmly by his parents, by his brothers, by his whole family. It was really, really special. And they were so grateful to us because we had taken care of John Leo over the time that he has been here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So you're there for 10 days. Can you run us through the itinerary? What you did?
Yeah. So, well, the first day arriving, the first thing they did, of course, was they fed us, and they really were so hospitable toward us. And the way the home is set up in this traditional culture is when you first walk onto the property, onto the homestead, the parents' home is directly in front of you in the back of the property, and then the oldest brother has a house on this side, a little house on this side, might be like 2 rooms. They do a lot of outdoor living too, more than we would. So big house up there for the parents, older brother, next older brother, next older brother. And then there's like bath houses that were kind of set up a couple different places. So it's a big kind of homestead property. And they fed us. We went up to the main house and met his parents, met his brothers, met his cousins, and all these people kind of came and joined us for dinner. I don't remember what we had that night, but there were probably chicken feet on the menu, I think, and different parts of animals that we wouldn't normally eat. I did bravely try the chicken feet wrapped in, I don't even know what it was wrapped in.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, and then, over the course of the next few days, he took us around like some other family properties in the area. We went around the village. We met some more of his family, and we were the talk of the town. I'll tell you that the younger children in his family who have never left, this is very remote. Tourists don't go to this place. And so for the people that had never gone to Nairobi, the big city, they had never seen a white person before, like in person. And he told us that. He said, the children are staring at you because they have never seen a white person in person before. Wow. Which I had never considered that. I didn't imagine that would be an experience I would have. And so they were very enthralled with us. And the kids were just beautiful. It was really great to spend those days with them. And there were 2 first masses, one at the parish, one at the homestead. Again, lots of food, a party, dancing. Dance is a huge part of the culture, so I got a chance to experience that. We went over to Lake Victoria for a day, and that's the rundown. We can get into more specifics if you want to ask more specific questions, but that's the rundown. And then after that, after the celebration with the hometown, we went to a safari in Masai Mara Park, that was just the Americans that were visiting that went to that. We said goodbye to the family and went for 3 days into the national.
Oh, okay. Okay. Masses, liturgy, very similar to an American mass.
Yes and no. So of course, the basic elements are the same. But the mass both times, and this is not an exaggeration, 4 hours. The mass at the parish was 4 hours. The mass on the homestead was 4 hours. There was singing and dancing. There were presentation of gifts and celebrations, and they just really filled in a lot of. One of the things that really moved me at the mass at the parish. So they knew there would be a big crowd. People wouldn't even fit inside the church. They had to have the mass on the church yard for the crowd that came. It must have been 1,000 people. It was just a sea of people out there. And as we were driving up from his homestead to the parish, we could see people walking from all different places. And he said, they're coming to the mass. And it was really moving to see people like genuinely wanting to be here for this celebration. And we got there and we met the pastor. By the way, Anne, you mentioned, I have 6 parishes, and that must be, so difficult. Father Oliver in this town has 12, 12
Wow.
churches.
Okay.
So he goes to some of them once a month. So
I
I
was
don't
going to
feel
say
as bad for his church.
geographically, I bet you it's pretty spread out too, right? For
It's
him?
even further. Yes. So,
Yeah,
yep, it takes
sure.
hours for him to get to, plus there's no highways, so hours for him to get to one of his
Wow.
churches. Yeah.
Yeah.
But people came from all over to be here at this celebration. And the choir was so moving and so beautiful. They had dance choirs. So at the opening hymn, I had tears in my eyes as we were doing the procession. And Father John Leo was sprinkling with holy water as we're processing down. And there's a group of girls that were in a dance choir, young girls that danced in front of us. And it's hard to imagine like what that would look like, from our perspective, as Americans. And I remember as a kid, we had like liturgical dancers at my parish, and it doesn't have the same feeling.
No.
This dance was so ingrained in the culture. Like every commercial we saw had someone dancing in it on TV. There's just, dance is such a part of an expression of joy for this culture that it seemed so real and authentic and natural, a natural expression of their joy. And so these girls danced up, and these children have more rhythm in their pinky than I do in my whole body. And they danced us up in the procession, and then they danced when the book of the Gospels was brought down,
Yeah.
and they danced during the offertory, and they danced after communion. But one time they didn't dance. They danced during the Gloria. But when we did the act of contrition and the Lord have mercy, they bowed their heads and very reverently did not dance. And it just tells me that they have thought through the appropriate times for joy and the appropriate times to quiet ourselves and to reflect on something. So it was very beautiful to experience that.
Yeah. When you talked about over 1,000 people attended and people flocking from miles away to attend the mass, what comes to my mind is numbers have gone down, and though with your arrival, numbers are just growing tremendously, but
Praise the Lord.
which is great to see. But I think several years ago we had the privilege of visiting the Vatican, and as we were waiting to get in for our tour, people just kept arriving and arriving and arriving. It was just to a Catholic to see hundreds and thousands of people really being attracted to your faith. It's just a wonderful experience, and that's what comes to mind as you describe that that picture. How does
And I think the cool thing about going to the Vatican is you see the world church, the universal church represented, because you see people from all over the world in that place, which is really inspiring.
Oh, it is absolutely. So as you describe your, and I'm going to keep going. Is that okay? Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
As
sorry.
you
No, I'm talking to Anne.
as you describe your experience there, Father, what are your takeaways from all that? How has that impacted your faith? How has that impacted your priesthood? What are some things that you would want to? Are there any things from that you would want to impart to your parishioners here in the States? That's a mouthful.
Yeah, no, I've got some thoughts on that. So one thing I saw was authentic joy at gathering together and authentic joy surrounding the things of the faith. And some of that is the occasion, right? A first mass. I remember my first mass, there's a lot of joy, right? So it's kind of natural to the occasion. But I really got a sense that the African church, they're in a different place than the church in our country. And what is that about? And I can't. I should not speak in too broad of generalities, but this is my experience of what I saw was authentic joy. People that genuinely wanted to be together and to pray together. And I mean, just people that come from all over, not just that day, but every Sunday, people gather from all over because the faith matters to them. Faith is important to them. And what is that about? Why is that? I think so. Certainly, maybe the elephant in the room is there is great poverty in his village, in the surrounding villages, in the country as a whole, in Kenya and the continent in many ways. So I think Jesus said it himself. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom. And what he means is that when we become self-reliant, when we become complacent and have everything we need and want, we don't need God anymore. And so I think in many ways, the struggle of daily life leads people to recognize their dependence on God. And so the church is a place of comfort. The church also is a place of reaching out to the poor. I mean, there are so many ministries from this parish to take care of those that are in need, the children in the community, and they have a Catholic school there. And so I think Jesus, the wisdom of Jesus is, you can see it at work in this place. And I don't want to glorify poverty, because we want to help raise people out of this, but there is something about this dependence, realizing I don't have everything and I have to look to God. And so I think that's where our church in this country is at. We're relatively wealthy compared to many parts of the world. We have what we need and want in so many ways compared to people that have to rely on others for their daily bread. And so complacency breeds more complacency with things of the faith, and we don't need God as much anymore, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take it for granted. Everything for granted. They can't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
Not even their very existence.
And so, another experience I had related to that, we wanted, they're building a church, right? The church is not big enough to fit their community. The church is pretty big. So I was pretty moved by that. And so they have the foundations laid, and we were talking to one of the catechists in the parish. So the ministry of catechist is used in many parts of Africa. And it's not like, someone who simply goes into religious ed class once a week. A catechist really takes on a greater ministerial role. And Pope Francis has recently talked about this, the role of the catechist. And you see it employed in Africa, especially. So I was speaking to one of the catechists who's a leader in the community. And he showed me the church, and he said, these are the foundations. We really want to continue building this church. And he said, we have to raise money for this, and it might take us 10 years. If that's what it takes us, then it'll take us 10 years, and that's okay. When we get more money, we'll put the walls up. When we get more money, we'll do the electrical, etc. And that moved me as well. That it's a reliance on God and the goodness of others. And it's an acceptance of that.
Wow. And so, Father, can I just ask a question? The Father Odor, is it?
Yes.
So they sent him over here. We're his mission field, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and I think,
what does that mean?
yeah. So he is a missionary to us, because I think the church in America has a lot to learn about how to depend on God, about authentic joy with things of our faith, about dedication, about hospitality, about there's just so much that we have to learn. And I had the opportunity to be with him for a year as he was a seminarian assigned to our parish. And I encouraged him, when you preach, when you get ordained and you preach, please do not hesitate to share stories of your home, to share stories of how you do things, because we need to hear this. We need to know. We have, I have to be careful how I say this, because it's kind of politically charged. I try not to be too political, but we're very proud of our country, and we should be. We have many good things, a lot going for us, and a lot of people have poured a lot into this country and have sacrificed to build this country. So I don't want to minimize that at all. But at the same time, if we cry out, our country is number one and America first, that it hits my heart, because there are so many beautiful people that have so much to teach us in this world. And my experience in Africa was one of those. I mean, people that are very proud of their country in Kenya, and they look up to us in America. All these conversations I had were people looking up to our country. And I said, folks, we have our own problems. We have a lot of them actually, and
Yeah.
we can learn a lot from you. And they kind of pause because they have their problems, and they have corruption in government, and they have all this. And for them to think that that America could learn something from them, from the people there, was kind of shocking.
Yeah.
But I saw a beauty in the people that we experienced, and a welcome to us, that hospitality that was really inspiring, and a faith, a dependence on God was really inspiring.
What would you, if you had the top 2 or 3 items that you would want to impart to and share with your parishioners from your time spent in Africa, what would they be?
Okay. Number one, and this is just in general anyway, in our spirituality, everything is a gift. Everything that I have, even if I've worked for it, don't put too much emphasis on what I've done, right? Everything is a gift. You might have built a great company and you might now have millions of dollars. You still have to recognize that as gift. Everything I have and am ultimately is a gift of God at work in me. If I've done good work, it's because the gift of God is at work in me. So I think our baseline has to be that. And I think for many people that live in poverty, they can't help but think that way because that's their experience of daily life. But for us, who have access to lots of goods and services and have money, and we might not recognize that as much. So everything is gift. I think that's number one. I think that's baseline for spirituality. I would say number two, that because we have been gifted with more is asked of us. And so to be aware of the needs of others around us, and to reach out in love to them. And I hope that from our parish, I would love to help that parish, Unukwala, Kenya, build their church. I think that could be a beautiful outreach ministry from the Spirit of Hope Catholic community. So we're getting ready to launch this idea and see where it goes.
Very nice.
So
Yay.
yeah, it would be and then to bring our parishioners to go visit and to see the fruit
Exactly.
of that. I would love it.
That connection, that community sense can be global. It can be connected that way. That's so beautiful. What a great opportunity. Yeah, for us.
So I'm hoping the Holy Spirit will inspire us to continue to do this. Okay. So yeah, so everything is gift. Because we are gifted, we need to look after those around us. And I think this idea of breaking outside of our own context, our own country, our own politics, and seeing a bigger world. As connected as we are right now in the world, we're also somehow closing in on ourselves. And it's weird to see that, but I don't get it. But just a willingness to see beyond our own context and to recognize a beauty and a goodness in other places.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. You just got back from another trip.
I'm a world traveler.
Travel's very important to you, I gather.
It is. I'm the first time I ever left this country. Well, I went with my grandma to Canada because she wanted to play bingo in Gananoque. Is that?
Yeah. Gananoque. So, oh yeah.
Gananoque. Yeah. So I remember that as like a 13-year-old with grandma and my aunt. But then my first time like really going besides Canada right over the border was to Mexico and Mexico City when I was in college seminary. I was 18 years old and had a chance to travel to Mexico City. So that really gave me a passion for wanting to travel. And so I've had the opportunity to travel many times and go to many parts of the world. Some, mission trips, and some were pilgrimages, and some have been for pleasure, but just a chance to see the world. I really value that.
Yeah.
And so most recently, I had a chance to go to the Holy Land. I just got back a week and a half ago. We went there. This is my third time to the Holy Land. My grandma always said, "Wow, goodness, become a priest and see the world." And yeah,
and
grandma did. I've had a chance.
Yeah. I know.
Is your grandma still alive? I'm sorry. Is your grandma
She
still
passed away just a couple of years ago. Grandma went to her rest, and she's at peace. And yeah.
All right. I just wondered. I know she was instrumental in your life, so.
She was.
She was. Yeah. She still is, but just in a different way now.
She still is.
Yeah.
Yep. Praying me through these next days.
So I saw that you had a wedding at Cana there. Is that true?
Yes. So
I saw that on Facebook.
I try not to be. I try I try not to have too much pride, but that one is going to be a feather in the cap. I mean, a wedding at Cana, that's really cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
parishioners from St. Agatha's in Canastota. Um, I had a chance to work with them and prepare them for their wedding, and it was really special. It was beautiful. It was like a fairy tale wedding in so many ways, a destination wedding, but in the best destination.
I guess, yeah, we can let that one go, right?
Yeah. I'm
Dispensation
allowed
for
to have a
that
little
one.
bit of pride on that. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
cool.
Yeah. Well, Father,
And going to the Holy Land was just beautiful. I mean, to be in around the Sea of Galilee and to have a chance to pray. I said Mass on Calvary, and to pray in the tomb of Jesus is so powerful. And to go to the place where our faith started, you can feel the presence of the Lord there. I'll give you a little insight though, and then I'll let
no, that's
Bob
all
finish
right.
up. Sorry. Um, so the other priest on the trip is Father Michael Galuppi. He's in my former parish now, actually, at Our Lady of Hope in Syracuse, and also St. Michael St. Peter's on Boga Hill. He he has this beautiful sense because we go to these places. We go to Nazareth, and it said, and the Word became flesh here. It's written in Latin, hic. The Word became flesh here. And you go to when you read the Gospel in Capernaum, it says they add the word this. So when Jesus was preaching in this synagogue in Capernaum, he said the following, I am the bread of life, etc. So the words here are added to all of the Gospels that we read at the holy sites. But then you get into the tomb, and the quote of the angel is there above the slab where Jesus laid. It says, "He is not here. He has been raised. Non est hic. He is not here," which is remarkable to see that. All the other places say he's here, he's here. This happened here, but here he is no longer because he's been raised. And then you can go into the Blessed Sacrament Chapel, and he is here. He's in the Eucharist. He's present, which, we go halfway across the world to find, where Jesus walked, when all we have to do is go into our church or into an adoration chapel and sit with the Lord in the Eucharist. He is here. And that's probably the most powerful insight from our travels.
last a couple weeks ago, I guess we're going to release a podcast this week. We for the second time had Father Haig on.
Oh, good.
And first time was his book had just come out, and we went through the book, and now that the book is really leading to some very exciting developments, and the focus now is on that as a resource for walking people through Lent, and I just and I've had the opportunity personally of spending time with you and Father Brooks these last number of months. Then my interaction with Father Haig and you young guys with such energy and passion and commitment and really strong intellect, understanding your faith. You're really a blessing to our parishes, and I'm wondering what's we read about not pleasant things in the news about the numbers. We talked about that a little while ago, and how few clergy are available and so forth. But boy, I'm just wondering what your observations are as a relatively young man, early in his priesthood, with another number of other very exceptional young early in their priesthood. How do you view all this, and how do you view yourself really going forward with all this?
Well, I would be dishonest if I said that I didn't have a little trepidation or fear about what the future might look like. But I heard a beautiful quote that said, "Just as courage is perseverance in the face of fear, so too is faith perseverance in the face of doubt." Right? Just because someone's courageous doesn't mean they don't have fear, and just because someone has doubt doesn't mean they're not faithful. So, I think to persevere through that fear and to move forward, and I don't know what the church is going to look like in 20 years, in 10 years, in 5 years, but So that does give me a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
But my job, I can only do what I can do, and what I can do is preach and teach and celebrate Mass and be as faithful as I can be. I'm not perfect. I'm seeking the Lord every day and His mercy every day, just like we all are. We're on the journey together. So that's what Bishop Lucia keeps saying. We're in this together.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you. And I am encouraged by my brother priests and by our seminarians. There are good men that are hearing the Lord's call and that really want to serve the church. And I hope that inspires more to answer.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
And I'm inspired by you folks, by very faithful people that despite the struggles in the church and the number is decreasing and some of the terrible behavior by brother priests over the years and bishops and just people that know the truth. And the truth is that this is about Jesus Christ. It's not about any one priest or any one bishop. It's about the Lord, and the church is our best bet for encountering Him in the sacraments and in the church's teaching and wisdom. So thank you for your faithfulness.
Well put.
Thank you.
Well put. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Ian, I'm good to go.
All right. Well, this has been wonderful. It's really wonderful just to sit and chat with a priest for once in a while.
Absolutely.
And experience and hear, because, they have different lives. Their lives are different from ours. We're the laity. They're, they're in the ministry. They're in the priesthood. So we both have vocations that we fulfill, and we need each other. So I think that's really what it's all about. Like you just said, Jesus is in the middle. And it's been beautiful, really. Just thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Father Chris, thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
We are grateful that you joined us today for another episode of the Mission Revive podcast. We humbly ask for your prayers as we continue in the mission entrusted to us to evangelize and revive hearts with Jesus. We would also ask that you prayerfully consider becoming a sponsor of this podcast or making a financial contribution to support this growing ministry. You can do this by visiting our website at revivehopeandhealing.com or through our Revive Hope and Healing Ministries patron page. We cannot do this without you. Thank you.